All right. So now we're recording. All right. Hi, everyone. I am Cheesemonger 15, and welcome to my lesson on an overview of all the tenses, moods, voices, and aspects in English. So, let me pull up my little chart of verbs. There we go. Okay, so I suppose we should define. Oh yeah, and let me put that in the chat. So here, let me share this. Copy link. I'll show you guys the previous recordings later, where you can see them. I mean, where you can watch them. Okay, so that's the document that I'll be using for this lesson. Okay. Now, let's see. I should probably start with defining what exactly these terms mean. So, can anyone tell me what tense is? What exactly is tense? What is tense? What is this concept of tense? What is it? The time when the work is done. Sort of. Like, you're on the right track. I do get what you understand. What you mean, though. Okay, so in grammar, tense is a category that expresses a reference to time. Yeah, exactly. It indicates time. Yes. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, so tense references time. And how many tenses are there in English? Well, grammatical tenses anyway. I mean just tenses, so don't include the perfect or the continuous forms. I'm talking about just the bare tenses. 3. Okay, yes, good. 3. Okay. And they are what? Yeah, exactly. Past, present, and future. Yeah, present, past, and future, exactly. Okay, so that's tense. Okay. Yeah, like you mentioned, Serenity. Okay, now. Let's combine these forms with. Well, first of all, what is verbal aspect? What is verbal aspect? Can anyone define that? What is this thing called verbal aspect? Okay, so I have 2 good answers here. Grammaticalization of location and time. Yeah, that's a good statement. It characterizes the way in which a verb portrays its own action. In English, verbal aspects have no external markers, but the endings with the combination of auxiliary verbs helps us to determine whether the action is completed or not. That's also very good. So basically, if tense references time, then aspect deals with the flow of time. So, and I'm reading from Wikipedia here. In linguistics, aspect is a grammatical category that expresses how an action, event, or state, denoted by a verb, extends over time. So aspect deals with the flow of time. Aspect deals with the flow of time. Yeah, exactly. Serenity mentioned a few verbal aspects. So you have the simple aspect, the continuous aspect, the perfect aspect, and the perfect continuous aspect. Okay. So, and somebody else mentioned there are additional aspects such as the perfective aspect and the imperfective aspect, which deal with completed and incomplete events respectively. But let's talk about let's talk about what exactly all these aspects mean. So the simple aspect, what exactly is the simple aspect? The simple aspect. Facts, habits, routines. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. Yeah, the simple aspect, um, it's essentially a verb form that doesn't have any like any additional any additional words or whatever. So it's just one really basic form, such as I write, you sing, he speaks, etc. Or or they worked. So it's just the most basic form in a tense. So I write would be the present simple, and they worked would be the past simple. And in the present tense, the simple aspect is used for habitual actions. So an example would be I play sports with my friends on Wednesdays. I play sports with my friends on Wednesdays. So here we have the simple present play, and it denotes or shows habitual actions in the present. Now for the past simple, that really deals with, it can deal with a habitual event in the past or a complete event in the past. Or an incomplete event in the past, it depends. But the past simple would be stuff like I worked, he needed this, we loved him, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, what is the continuous aspect or progressive aspect? What is the continuous or progressive aspect? Continuous means ongoing. Yes, exactly. The action is not completed yet. Usually, not always though, it's possible to use the progressive for completed actions, but I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, continuous does mean ongoing, something that's occurring at some point in time. It's in progress, yes. The action is duration rather than the result of the action. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah, it's progressing. That's what we call the progressive or continuous aspect. So yeah, for an example would be I'm studying right now, or I'm sending the documents as we speak. Oops. Yeah, or I'm eating. I can't talk right now. I can't talk right now. I'm eating. So these are all examples of the continuous or progressive aspect. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like they have the same. It's the same concept. Two different names for the same concept. Okay. So, and of course you can you can use these in any tense. You could have the continuous as well. So as I said earlier, you could use a simple aspect. You can combine the simple aspect with any of the tenses. You could have a present simple, a past simple, and a future simple. I forgot to mention the future simple. So you could have something like, I will work on this tomorrow. That would be the future simple. So you can also have continuous forms. You can combine the continuous form with the tense. So you get three awesome combinations: present continuous, past continuous, and future continuous. And of course, for the simple forms, you could also get present simple, past simple, and future simple. And yeah, for the continuous form, you do need an auxiliary verb. Yes, thank you, Nyan Chad. An auxiliary verb. So an example of an auxiliary verb would be am, or was, or will be. So to form the present continuous, we already showed you guys examples of the present continuous. So for the past continuous, you could have something like, I was working on my homework when you called me. Here, this is the past continuous, because we have was, which is a past tense verb, combined with the ing verb working. And this action would technically be incomplete or imperfective, because the person's working on his homework was in progress when someone called him. But technically, it's also possible for the past continuous to express a completed action. So you could say something like this. I was waiting for you for hours. I was waiting for you for hours. So here we have the progressive form, but it's used to express a completed action. And so here it's not really in progress. So that's an example of the present past, when the past continuous can be used to express a completed action. Anyway, hold on one moment. Okay, so yeah, those are good examples of the past continuous. The boy was playing a game in this picture. They were being arrested by law enforcement. I was cooking when this class began. My neighbor was playing Minecraft when I was doing my homework. Okay, so here's an example of the future continuous. So I'll be working in the garden tomorrow. I'll be working in the garden tomorrow. That's an example of the future continuous. So I use the continuous form here to indicate that the event in the future will be ongoing. So, yeah, I'll be working in the garden tomorrow. I'll be partying this weekend. In several, like in plenty of contexts, sometimes you can just use the future continuous instead of the future simple. Like sometimes you can just like use them interchangeably. That's what I mean. Sometimes you can just use them interchangeably. So you could say something like, I'll need this document later, or I'll be needing this document later. The meaning isn't very different. I suppose you could just say that the continuous just places more of an emphasis on the fact that the action will be ongoing in the future, whereas the future simple doesn't necessarily have that implication. Like the future continuous will imply that the event will not be completed in the future, whereas the future simple could have that implication or could express that the event will be completed in the future. I'll be studying English when this class finishes. Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect.